I spent 3 hours at an Acura dealership last week, and what I witnessed made my blood run cold. A gentleman about my age was signing papers on a 2027 SLX, beaming with pride about his new luxury SUV. The salesman was congratulating him, shaking his hand, talking about what a smart choice he'd made. But here's what that buyer didn't know, what the dealer would never tell him, and what I'm going to share with you today. Because after 40 years of buying and owning vehicles, I've learned that the most expensive mistakes are the ones you don't see coming. The 2027 Acura SLX that looks like a dream on paper. I get it. We've all worked hard. We've earned the right to enjoy the finer things. And there's nothing wrong with wanting a vehicle that reflects our success and provides comfort for whatever adventures we have left. But there's a difference between treating yourself and walking into a financial trap that could cost you tens of thousands of dollars over the next decade. And that's exactly what we need to talk about today. Now, I'm not here to trash Acura. I've owned Hondas and Acuras over the years. Good vehicles, reliable, for the most part. But something's changed in the luxury car market. And if you're considering the SLX, you need to understand what you're really buying into. This isn't about being cheap or settling for less. This is about making an informed decision with your eyes wide open, the same way we've approached every major purchase throughout our lives. You and I, we've been around long enough to remember when a car was a car. You bought it, you maintained it, and it served you faithfully for 10, 15, maybe 20 years. We remember when luxury meant quality materials and superior engineering, not 1,000 computer screens and subscription services. The 2027 SLX represents everything that's changed in this industry, and not all of those changes work in our favor. Let me start by acknowledging what makes the SLX attractive, because the dealers aren't wrong about everything. This is a handsome vehicle. The styling is refined without being flashy. It's got presence without screaming for attention. The interior is genuinely comfortable, with seats that actually support your back properly, something that matters more with each passing year. The ride quality is smooth, the cabin is quiet, and when you first slide behind that wheel, it feels like you've made it. It feels like the reward you've earned. Acura's marketing team knows exactly how to appeal to our generation. They talk about craftsmanship, heritage, and attention to detail. They emphasize safety features, which resonates with us, because we're thinking about our wives riding in these vehicles, about making sure we can still drive safely as we age, about protecting our independence for as long as possible. The SLX comes with every driver assistance feature you can imagine. Adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, blind spot monitoring, automatic emergency braking. On paper, it's the perfect vehicle for someone who wants to keep driving confidently into their 70s and beyond. The technology package is impressive, I'll give them that. The infotainment system is responsive, the navigation is clear, and they integrated smartphone connectivity in a way that actually makes sense. For those of us who have embraced technology, not afraid of it, but appreciating what it can do, the SLX seems like it strikes the right balance between modern convenience and traditional luxury. The powertrain is smooth and adequate. We're not talking about a sports car here, and that's fine. Most of us aren't looking to prove anything anymore. The turbocharged engine provides enough power for highway merging and passing, and the transmission is refined. Fuel economy is reasonable for a vehicle of this size, which matters when you're on a fixed income or simply want your money to go further. And here's something the dealers really emphasize: Acura's reputation for reliability. They'll show you the awards, the ratings, the customer satisfaction surveys. They'll remind you that Acura is Honda's luxury division, and we all know Honda builds solid vehicles. It's a compelling argument. It's designed to make you feel smart, prudent, responsible. It's designed to make you sign those papers. But here's where we need to slow down and look at what they're not telling you, what you won't find in the brochure, what becomes painfully clear only after you've owned the vehicle for a few years. And this is where decades of experience become invaluable, because we've been through enough vehicle ownership cycles to know what questions to ask. Let's talk about the real cost of ownership, and I'm not talking about the sticker price. If you're looking at an SLX, you can probably afford the purchase price. What I'm concerned about is what happens in year 5, year 7, year 10. Because unlike vehicles we bought 20 or 30 years ago, modern luxury cars have a completely different cost structure, and it's not in our favor. The 2027 SLX, being a newer model in Acura's lineup, doesn't have the long-term reliability data that we relied on with previous generations. We're essentially beta testers, and that's a risky position when you're planning to keep a vehicle for the long haul. The first few years will be fine, covered under warranty. But what happens when that warranty expires and you're facing a repair bill for a failed electronic component that costs $4,000? I've done the research, talked to mechanics who work on these newer luxury vehicles, and the numbers are sobering. The average annual maintenance cost for a luxury SUV after warranty expiration runs between $3,000 and $5,000. That's not including major repairs. We're talking routine maintenance, brake jobs, tire replacements, fluid changes. The parts are more expensive because they're luxury brand parts. The labor is more expensive because the complexity requires specialized training and diagnostic equipment. Here's a specific example that should concern you. The SLX uses an advanced all-wheel drive system with multiple electronic controls and sensors. When something goes wrong with that system, and eventually something will, you're not looking at a simple mechanical repair. You're looking at diagnostic time, proprietary parts that only Acura dealers can access, and labor rates that can exceed $200 per hour. A transfer case replacement on a similar Acura model runs around $7,000. Let that sink in. $7,000 for one component. The turbocharged engine, while smooth and efficient, introduces additional complexity. Turbochargers have a finite lifespan. On average, you're looking at replacements somewhere between 80,000 and 120,000 miles. The cost? Anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000, depending on your location and whether you can find an independent shop willing to tackle the job. Many won't, because the electronics integration means they need dealer-level diagnostic equipment. Now, let's talk about depreciation, because this is where the numbers get really uncomfortable. Luxury vehicles depreciate faster than mainstream brands, and within the luxury segment, Acura doesn't hold value like Lexus. I pulled the data on similar Acura models from the past 5 years. On average, an Acura luxury SUV loses about 30% of its value in the first 3 years. By year 5, you're looking at 50% depreciation. By year 7, that $80,000 SLX you bought is worth maybe $35,000, if you're lucky. Why does this matter? Because unlike our generation, which tends to buy vehicles and keep them, circumstances change. Health issues arise. We need to downsize. We need to liquidate assets for medical expenses or assisted living. Maybe we want to help a grandchild with college costs. That vehicle you thought was a solid investment just cost you $50,000 in lost value. That's real money, money that could have been working for you in other ways. Compare that to a Lexus RX, which is the SLX's main competitor. The Lexus loses about 20% in 3 years, 40% in 5 years. That's a $10,000 difference in retained value. Over the ownership period, that's significant money. And if you're thinking about leaving this vehicle to your wife or children, they're inheriting a rapidly depreciating asset that comes with high maintenance costs. But here's where it gets even more concerning. And this is something that affects us specifically as older buyers. The technology in the 2027 SLX isn't designed with longevity in mind. It's designed for a 3 to 5 year ownership cycle, which is how younger buyers tend to use vehicles. They lease, they trade up, they're always in something new. That's not us. We buy to keep. The infotainment system in the SLX runs on software that will become obsolete. We've already seen this with vehicles from 5 years ago. The maps don't update properly. The smartphone integration breaks when phone operating systems update. Features that worked perfectly when the car was new stop functioning because the software isn't supported anymore. And here's the kicker. Acura will eventually stop providing updates. You'll be driving around with a 10-inch screen in your dashboard that's essentially useless for half its functions. Think about the frustration of that. You paid for a premium technology package, and in 5 years, it's outdated. The backup camera still works, the basic radio functions, but all those smart features, the things that justified the luxury price tag, they're gone. And there's no fix because the hardware can't run newer software. You'd have to replace the entire system, if replacement parts are even available, at a cost of several $1,000s. The subscription services are another concern that deserves serious attention. Many of the SLX's advanced features require ongoing subscriptions. Remote start through your phone, that's a subscription. Premium navigation with live traffic, subscription. Wi-Fi hotspot, subscription. Advanced safety features that use cloud connectivity, you guessed it, subscription. These costs add up. We're talking potentially $500 to $1,000 per year, just to maintain full functionality of a vehicle you already paid $80,000 to own. What happens if you decide those subscriptions aren't worth it? Well, features stop working. That remote start you got used to, gone. Those real-time traffic updates that help you avoid backups, gone. And here's what really bothers me about this model. You don't own the vehicle, not really. You're renting access to its full capabilities on an ongoing basis. This is fundamentally different from how vehicles worked throughout most of our lives. The electronic complexity creates another issue we need to discuss honestly. As we age, as our vision changes, as our reflexes slow down naturally, we rely more heavily on those driver assistance features. But what happens when they malfunction? And they will malfunction, because electronics fail at higher rates than mechanical components. A faulty sensor can disable your adaptive cruise control. A software glitch can knock out your blind spot monitoring. And until you get it to a dealer for diagnosis and repair, you're driving without those safety nets. I spoke with a technician who works on these newer vehicles, and he told me something that should concern every buyer. The diagnostic process for electronic failures can take hours, sometimes days, because the systems are so interconnected. One failure can create cascading error codes that make it difficult to identify the actual problem. You're paying diagnostic fees while they chase ghosts in the system. And because everything is proprietary, you can't just take it to your trusted local mechanic. You're locked into the dealer network, paying dealer prices. Let's shift gears and talk about Acura's position in the luxury market, because this directly affects your ownership experience and resale value. Acura is struggling. I don't say that to be mean. I say it because it's reality, and reality matters when you're making a major purchase decision. In the luxury segment, Acura is being squeezed from above by the German brands, and from below by Genesis and the upgraded mainstream brands. The SLX is Acura's attempt to recapture some of that luxury market share. But the execution feels like they're trying to be everything to everyone and not quite succeeding at anything. It's not as prestigious as a BMW or Mercedes. It's not as reliable as a Lexus. It's not as good a value as a Genesis. It sits in this awkward middle ground, and that uncertainty translates directly to resale value. Dealers know this, which is why they push hard on financing and trade-ins. They'll offer you an amazing deal on your current vehicle, make you feel like you're getting a steal, then make up the difference in the financing terms or the inflated price of the SLX. It's a shell game, and it works because they're good at making us feel smart while they're actually controlling the transaction. Here's a tactic they use specifically on older buyers, and I want you to be aware of it because knowledge is protection. They'll emphasize the safety features, really lean into the concern we naturally have about staying safe on the road. They'll suggest that buying the SLXE is the responsible choice, the smart choice, that we owe it to ourselves and our families. It's manipulation, pure and simple, playing on our desire to be responsible and our fear of becoming a danger behind the wheel. Then they'll move to financing, and this is where it gets predatory. They'll structure the loan over 6 or 7 years, making the monthly payment seem manageable. But look at what that means. You're in your late 60s or early 70s, financing a vehicle until you're approaching 80. What if your health changes? What if you can't drive anymore? You're stuck making payments on a depreciating asset you can't use, or you're forced to sell at a massive loss because you're underwater on the loan. The extended warranty pitch is another trap. They'll scare you with talk of expensive repairs, then offer an extended warranty that seems like peace of mind. But read the fine print. These warranties are loaded with exclusions. They don't cover wear items. They don't cover electronics in many cases. They have deductibles. And the company selling the warranty is betting they'll never have to pay out. The math is in their favor, not yours. What's really negotiable at a dealership? More than they want you to know. The price of the vehicle has room to move, especially on a model like the SLX that isn't flying off the lots. The dealer holdback, the incentive money from Acura, the financing rate if you're not paying cash. All of these are negotiable, but they'll never volunteer that information. They'll make you feel like you're getting their best price when there's still several $1,000s of profit built in. Here's why I wish someone had told that gentleman I saw signing papers last week. If you're set on a luxury SUV, if you've decided that's what you want, consider looking at certified pre-owned options from Lexus or even Genesis. A 3-year-old Lexus RX with 30,000 miles will cost you $20,000 less than a new SLX, and it'll hold its value better. The warranty is still good, the vehicle is proven, and you're not taking the immediate depreciation hit. Or consider this approach. Stay with what you know works. If you've been happy with mainstream brands, Toyota and Honda have never been better. A fully loaded Honda Pilot or Toyota Highlander gives you 90% of what the SLX offers at 60% of the price. The parts are cheaper, the service is easier, the reliability is proven. You could buy one of these, keep it for 10 years, and still spend less total than you would on 5 years with an SLX. If prestige matters to you, and there's nothing wrong with that, look at what Genesis is doing. The GV80 matches the SLXA in features and exceeds it in warranty coverage. 10 years, 100,000 miles. That's a company standing behind their product. And the depreciation curve is better because Genesis is the hungry competitor pricing aggressively to gain market share. Another option worth considering: buy a lightly used vehicle outright and skip the financing entirely. Take that money you would have spent on monthly payments and invest it. Even at modest returns, you're building wealth instead of feeding it into a depreciating asset. This is the kind of financial thinking that got us to where we are today. Let's not abandon it now. But maybe you're thinking, I've earned this. I want the new car experience. I want to enjoy what I've worked for. I understand that completely. In that case, go in with clear eyes. Negotiate hard. Don't fall for the financing tricks. Plan for the maintenance costs. Budget for the depreciation. Understand that you're buying an experience, not an investment, and make peace with what that means financially. Get everything in writing. When they make promises about service or maintenance, written agreement. When they talk about what the warranty covers, read every word of the actual warranty document, not the summary they show you. Take the paperwork home. Review it overnight. A good deal today will still be a good deal tomorrow, and any dealer who pressures you to sign immediately is waving a red flag. Consider having a trusted family member or friend review the numbers with you. Sometimes a fresh set of eyes catches things we miss, especially when we're excited about a purchase. There's no shame in getting a second opinion. In fact, it's smart business. Test drive the vehicle in conditions that match your actual use, not just around the block on a sunny day. Highway driving, backing into your garage. Can you see over the hood? Are the controls intuitive, or do you have to hunt through menus? Can you easily reach everything you need while driving? These practical considerations matter more than the salesman's enthusiasm. Research the actual ownership costs. Find SLX owners online and ask about their experiences. What have their maintenance bills looked like? Have they had any major issues? How's the dealer service in your area? This kind of real-world data is invaluable, and it's free for the asking. Here's something else to consider. How long do you realistically plan to keep driving? This isn't a comfortable question, but it's an important one. If you're looking at 5 to 7 more years behind the wheel, that changes the calculation significantly. Maybe a shorter-term vehicle makes more sense. Maybe even leasing, which I generally don't recommend, becomes worth considering because you're not worried about long-term ownership costs. Think about the total cost of ownership over your planned ownership period. Purchase price minus expected resale value, plus maintenance, plus insurance, plus subscriptions, plus repairs. That's your real cost. When you add it all up, the SLX might cost you $70,000 or $80,000 to own for 7 years. Is that the best use of that money? Could you buy a less expensive vehicle and take your spouse on the trips you've been postponing? Could you help your grandchildren more? Could you simply keep that money invested and enjoy the security it provides? I'm not trying to talk you out of enjoying your life or treating yourself to nice things. I'm trying to make sure that when you make this decision, you're making it based on complete information, not the carefully curated story the dealer wants you to believe. We'd spent our lives working hard, making smart decisions, building financial security. Let's not undermine that now with a purchase that looks good, but doesn't make sense. The automotive industry has changed in ways that don't favor long-term ownership, and that puts us at a disadvantage because long-term ownership is what we do. We're not car collectors rotating through vehicles every few years. We're practical people who want reliable transportation that serves us well and doesn't nickel and dime us to death. The 2027 Acura SLX, for all its surface appeal, isn't designed with our priorities in mind. So here's my challenge to you. Before you walk into that dealership, before you start test drives, sit down and honestly assess what you need versus what the marketing has convinced you that you want. Write down your priorities: reliability, comfort, ease of use, cost of ownership, resale value. Then research which vehicles actually deliver on those priorities, not which ones have the slickest commercials or the most impressive showroom. Talk to your spouse about it. This is likely a decision that affects both of you, and 2 perspectives are better than 1. What concerns does she have? What features matter most to her? Often, our wives see things we miss because they're not caught up in the excitement of new car shopping the way we sometimes are. And if, after all this consideration, you still decide the SLX is right for you, at least you're going in prepared. You know what to negotiate. You know what questions to ask. You know what the long-term costs look like. You won't be that buyer signing papers with a smile while walking into a financial trap. The hidden risks of the 2027 Acura SLX that aren't really hidden. They're just not advertised. The dealers won't volunteer this information because it's not in their interest. The manufacturers won't highlight these concerns because they're trying to sell vehicles. It's up to us, as experienced buyers, to do our homework and make decisions based on reality, not hope. We've earned the right to enjoy our retirement years, to drive comfortable vehicles, to treat ourselves to nice things. But we've also earned the wisdom to know that marketing and reality don't always align, that the shiniest package isn't always the best value, and that protecting our financial security matters just as much now as it did when we were building our careers. The 2027 Acura SLX might be right for someone, but it's not right for most of us, not when we factor in the complete picture. There are better options out there, vehicles that will serve you just as well or better without the hidden costs and risks. Your job is to find them, and my hope is that this conversation has given you the tools and perspective to do exactly that. Remember, a good salesperson makes you feel smart for buying what they're selling. A truly smart buyer makes decisions based on facts, not feelings. After decades of experience, we know the difference. Let's use that knowledge to our advantage. Your financial future and your peace of mind are too important to risk on a purchase that looks good but doesn't deliver long-term value. I'm going to tell you something that could save you $30,000 or more over the next decade, and I need you to hear me out before you make what might be one of the biggest financial mistakes of your retirement years. Last month, I watched a friend of mine drive off the lot in a brand new 2027 Acura SLX, absolutely thrilled with his purchase. 6 weeks later, he called me, and the excitement in his voice was gone. He'd just gotten his first service appointment quote and discovered something the dealer conveniently forgot to mention, but we'll get to that in a minute. Look, I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money. You've worked 40, 50 years for what you have. You've earned every dollar, and if you want a luxury vehicle, that's your right. But I am here to tell you what the dealers won't, what the YouTube reviewers gloss over, and what you absolutely need to know before you sign anything. Because at our age, we don't have time to recover from expensive mistakes. We need to get this right the first time. The 2027 Acura SLX is being marketed brilliantly to people exactly like us. They know what buttons to push. Safety, comfort, reliability, prestige, without being flashy. It checks all the boxes we care about. The brochure makes it look like the perfect vehicle for someone who's done playing games and just wants quality and dependability. And that's precisely why we need to look deeper, because when something seems perfect, there's usually a catch. Now, I've been driving for over 50 years. I've owned everything from work trucks to luxury sedans.